Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. So far, the market is pulling back a tiny bit, but it is coming back up a little bit right now, so that's good. So either way, heading into today, the market's pretty flat. Tom, do you have any favorite setups? There's not really any major news today.
Yeah, there's no big news. And then as far as the stocks that have been moving lately, Mike, a lot of them just aren't doing much today. I know I've really been keeping my eyes though on Boeing and the airlines, and I will say Boeing had a nice explosion up this morning. It looks like the other airlines like Delta and American didn't move too much, but I will say Boeing had a big move in pre-market. It looks like at market open here though, it is coming right back down, so keep that in mind. But it did have that nice breakout early this morning, so I wonder if maybe there's some news or something like that behind them. And I've also been keeping my eyes, Mike, on these vaccine stocks like Pfizer and Moderna, and it looks like Pfizer is continuing the uptrend this morning, and even at market open here, it's getting a nice pop up. Even Moderna, at least in pre-market, had a nice pop. It's not looking as good as Pfizer, but hey, at least Pfizer's looking great. And I think Pfizer and Boeing might be two interesting setups to watch today.
There we go. Yeah, so we have Carlos first one, Keisha, Fast Money Friday, let's go. Good morning, George, Michael, I'm Fierce. Let's go, Sean. So, yeah, we're set for a decent day. The market's holding up fine. I will say this, though, Tom. If we look at some of our favorite stocks, like DraftKings or, for me, Zoom or stuff like that, looking at DraftKings specifically, over the past 3 days, it is up almost 30%. So while looking at some of these growth plays, keep in mind that a lot of them are up anywhere from 25 to 45%. So honestly, Tom, I wouldn't be surprised if we slowed down a little bit today, but obviously, the more we go up, the better.
Yeah, hopefully it keeps ripping, but I also would not be surprised if we saw a bit of a pullback. And, it looks like DraftKings is trying to hold this 1850 support area. If we end up falling below that, we might see a bit of a sell-off there. And I will say, Mike, I know a lot of stocks were doing great yesterday, and I called this out today as my free day trade in the Discord, but AMD was actually down in a pretty big way yesterday. I know a lot of the growth stocks and the overall market was doing pretty good, but AMD was really lagging behind. Looks like so far this morning they are getting some momentum back to the upside. I was eyeing these guys almost up to fall below 110, but hey, at least they're ripping back up, Mike, and maybe AMD will be able to come up and retest this 113 resistance or something like that, but it's nice to at least see some nice movement. And Mike, I know the China stocks have been on our radar a lot lately, and I know they're not doing too bad today. Baba's not really doing much, but Baidu actually had a pretty nice gap this morning.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Baidu's definitely holding pretty strong right now. And then, Tom, check out Square. This thing is still going.
Wow, it's still breaking highs here. We're up above 128 now. I can't believe we're breaking out of that high of day yesterday. That's great to see. Look at Square on the daily chart, Mike. It's looking so strong here. It's coming back up. I will say, though, we are coming up into a major resistance level right now. So as Square rises today, there's been a lot of bounces around 130, also some touches there around 131. So definitely be careful as we start moving up today. I do see some big resistance, but who knows, maybe with this type of momentum, Mike, we'll finally get a nice big breakout. And, I know with Square, we've been seeing some nice 5% up days. Hopefully we see another one here.
Yeah, hopefully. So yeah, Square's looking pretty good. Zoom also just broke its high of day from yesterday, which is awesome too. So keep that one on your radar. So that is good. And then the guys, I just want to note that today is quad witching. Not every person, but there are so many channels out there that hype up quad witching so much and triple witching and all that stuff. But it has been proven that it does not bring in extra volatility. So I'm just saying, today's quad witching, there should be more volume than normal, but that does not equate to volatility. So I figured I'd bring that up. Overall, Tom, it looks like a very normal day so far. Of course, that can change as it is a Friday, and the market's been crazy lately. So I wouldn't be surprised if, we saw some de-risking later in the day, but so far we're looking good.
Yeah, I can't believe a lot of these stocks are still moving up in the great way that they have been. I will say some are pulling back. One sector that's worrying me a little bit, Mike, are the bank stocks. Bank of America is starting to turn back over here in a pretty good way. JP Morgan actually had a decent pop this morning, but now they're also kind of turning back over. So I'm just eyeing up these banks. They're kind of having a strange move today. And then, Mike, we actually had Starbucks. Well, we have Starbucks actually down 3%, which is pretty crazy for a stock like Starbucks. You don't always see them falling down that much. And then, of course, Mike, FedEx had earnings last night, and they're getting destroyed here today so far, down 6% just about. Like, this is a pretty big pullback. Too bad those earnings didn't, at least too bad the market didn't receive their earnings well.
Yeah. Yep. And then how's GameStop? Because I remember that GameStop also had earnings, and honestly, like, it looked a lot worse right when they reported than it actually was. Like, we can see right when they reported, they went all the way down to lows of like 75.50. Now GameStop's at like 82, but it still closed at like 88 yesterday. So it's like, it's not looking good, but it's not terrible.
Yeah, it could definitely be way worse. Like FedEx is honestly looking pretty bad compared to GameStop. If GameStop would have had a huge second leg down today, it would have looked a lot worse. But it's kind of good, they're consolidating and they're actually holding their ground down there pretty well around 80. So maybe it won't be bad, Mike, if we see GameStop start to like run up or something. I know they had that news with their NFT marketplace last night as well that they're going to try to get done by the second quarter of 2022. So we'll have to see if that ends up helping GameStop out or not. I am glad to see him running up like this, though, Mike. It's definitely not a bad thing to see. I wonder how AMC's doing, because that's been kind of off the radar. And even AMC's up today a little bit. It looks like they might be trying to go up and break out, actually, which, I'm not saying to go trade AMC, but it's definitely something interesting to look at.
Yep. All right. So I'm looking through a couple of stocks on my watch list right now. One of them that's kind of interesting, Tom, is Asana, ASAN. We've been talking about this stock for a while. Basically, the significance behind this one is that their founder and CEO, Dustin Moskovitz, has been trucking billions of dollars into these shares. It's obviously his own money. It's like one of the largest insider trading buys ever. I think technically it's the second largest, but either way, it's like like when you have a founder and CEO billionaire buying billions of his own stock, like that tells you something. So overall, the stock has definitely been struggling, as all other stocks have been for the most part, but over the past couple of days it hasn't been bad. But I figured I'd bring it up because it is up like 4%, and we're right back above that $40 resistance.
Yeah, that's big to pop above 40 today. I hope it really continues, Mike. Like you said, that's been a huge insider trade to look at, and watching some of your videos about it was very interesting. But yeah, I mean, ASAN is on the uptrend today, Mike. It's continuing up with these other growth stocks too. So I'm glad to see that. Hopefully it continues up, and maybe they'll all keep going up in sympathy with each other. But yeah, that's huge, Mike, to see an insider drop like $1 billion, or yeah, like $1 billion on his own stock. That is huge. And, I know that you said in the past, Mike, Moskovitz was like the co-founder of Facebook too. So this isn't just some like random guy that we're talking about. This is a pretty big player in the tech industry.
Yeah, he knows his stuff. And it's partly why he's worth billions. So, if he's buying a ton of his own stock, like, it should signal something. But then again, like, I know that he has been buying for, months now, and the stock has been falling. And some people will say, like, well, the stock's been falling, maybe Moskovitz is wrong. And yeah, maybe Moskovitz can be wrong, but, he's like with a 99% confidence level, he's not looking at this for like a trade. Like, he's probably saying, you know what, I think my company Asana is going to be worth like 10x in 5 years from now, so I want to buy up as much of this stock as I can, so I have as much ownership as I can, so we'll see what happens though. But it's definitely an interesting one, because it's like you only see events or stocks or setups like that like once every couple years, if that.
Yeah, and it's the co-founder of Facebook. I'm sure he has some pretty big stuff in the works for Asana that, he probably knows about that a lot of other people don't know about. So that's probably another big reason to maybe watch it. But yeah, it's huge, Mike. It's even moving today up a lot. I'm glad to see it continue up with this momentum. I wonder where it's going to end up today. Hopefully we get up to maybe like $42 or something. That would make for a pretty good breakout here. But I will say, Mike, I know that we were looking at those China plays a little while ago. They're looking pretty hot still. Baidu's continuing to move up here. We finally got a nice extension to the upside. We have XPEV starting to run up. LI is breaking out or just about. So it looks like these China stocks are back on the uptrend. I know yesterday they started pulling back, but that good news earlier in the week with China supporting their listment on the U.S. exchange was huge, and I think that gave investors some more confidence. So hopefully the China stocks start going on a pretty nice uptrend here. And looking at the daily chart, Mike, BABA's up a ton from those lows of $73.
There we go. So I know BABA is like one of the favorites when it comes to China stocks. So can you give us like a bunch of levels on this one, like, for intraday, but maybe even for like some swing levels?
Yeah, definitely. So intraday today, I'm really watching that high of the other day up around 106. It did run up to like 106.24, but there's been a few bounces right around that 106 level. So definitely watch that. As far as support today, I think $100 even is going to hold up as a pretty good level. In pre-market, we had a lot of problems breaking below that. So $100 will be pretty good as far as that goes. And going to like the max daily chart, Mike, there's a lot of big resistances coming up here. So BABA had a ton of touches right here, right around $110 a share. So if we break up, or if we keep holding up above $100, 110 is going to be the next major level that I'm looking at. And then after 110, I'll be eyeing up 120. There might be some smaller ones mixed in there, but to me, Mike, 110 is going to be the biggest level. I know before BABA had this extension to the downside lately, they had been hovering around 110 for like 3 or 4 months there. So hopefully that holds up as a good resistance. And who knows, maybe we'll see BABA fly up through that with some momentum, but 110 will definitely be the next major level I'm looking at, especially since we're starting to break out here today.
Awesome. And then one other, like, really, how do I say this? Like, really great play, in my opinion, is Square. Obviously, it's not a China stock, but it's just still going, Tom. Like for the short term, I am getting a little bit nervous for this one, but I feel like for the long term, it's a great company to own. And I'm just very excited. I have been accumulating a long position with this one, and I feel like it's at a really good level. And like, check out that max weekly chart, Tom. It's actually pretty crazy. So we can see it went on this, like, it's been on this crazy uptrend for years, but like, buying it over like the past couple of weeks or so is the equivalent of buying it in like early 2020, So like, it's pretty good. Also, we can't really pull up the chart on here, but TradingView has a cool feature where you can see like the price to sales ratio, and long story short, it's at a really good level. So we'll see what happens, but I definitely like the way it's moving.
Yeah, me too. And even as far as like technicals go, Mike, it's really good. It's been bouncing off that $100 support, which is great to see. And we're also seeing a lot of other growth stocks starting to move off of support as well. So it's honestly just in a great setup, in my opinion, Mike. Like I said the other day, it's kind of like an inverse head and shoulders pattern, and I could definitely see it continue up, especially if we get this breakout here pretty soon up above like 131. It's definitely getting some nice momentum today, Mike, and I hope it continues up because this one's getting pretty explosive here, and I don't know how much it's going to run, but it's only up like 1%. Yesterday, I know this stock was moving up quite a bit. So like from market open to market close, it moved up like 11%. So this one could definitely still have some more movement today, Mike. And looking at it on the daily, I just love the daily setup. Like you said, accumulating shares down here, I think is going to be a really good way to go, especially with Square. I think that this setup is just awesome. And, like I compared with a couple other stocks, like if we go look at stocks like Zoom or stocks like DraftKings or something like that, they've been continually breaking lows to the downside, but Square consolidated a lot around $100. So I just think the setup looks pretty good.
Awesome. Yeah, good stuff there. Another stock that's really moving this morning, Tom, is NVIDIA. Some of these calls are up like 100% on this thing.
Yeah, I saw this one flying up earlier, Mike. It broke that high of day from yesterday. It actually just broke above 250, and it's really going. I mean, it's up 2.8%, which isn't the most, but you can see over the past couple days, it's really exploding compared to the movement that we've been seeing. And yeah, now it's all the way up to 255. It just had another nice extension there. So yeah, Nvidia is doing great. I'm sure AMD is moving up also, and they just broke above 112, ran up to like 113. So yeah, we're definitely seeing some nice moves today out of these chip stocks, which is relieving because yesterday, like I said, AMD kind of fell. Nvidia just, well, it actually moved up a little bit yesterday and just held its ground. But I'm glad to see them both going up, Mike. That's a good sign, and that's going to really help the overall tech sector continue to recover. And I will say, looking at Nvidia on the daily chart, they also consolidated a lot around their support, and they're starting to move off of it. So even Nvidia is starting to move off the lows here.
There we go. How are stocks like Intel and Micron doing, relative to Nvidia and AMD?
Today, they're not doing the best. I will say Intel did pretty good yesterday. Although I will say with AMD popping up today, Intel likes to do the opposite of what AMD does. It's obviously not correlated 100%, but we see them move in an opposite way quite often. I'm not saying it's even, like for example, it might not even be the majority of the time, but like today, for example, whenever we see AMD pop up, Intel's starting to move down a little bit. Yesterday, we saw AMD move down and Intel moved up a little bit. So it's kind of like they inverse each other. But yeah, it's definitely not performing as well, Mike. And, it's one of those stocks that it's also kind of consolidating a lot down around this $43, $44 support. But, it's a slower mover. It's probably not going to have the type of growth that AMD and Nvidia will have. But hopefully it just keeps holding its ground because I know this one's been moving quite a bit off that lower support.
All right, there we go. Let's see. So we have Adam saying, can you do MKD, please? So I have never heard of this company. Oh, that's why. It's only trading for 24 cents. So I don't know anything about this company. We don't really trade penny stocks. I mean, it went from 10 cents to 20 cents, which is awesome. But, I mean, it's a total gamble. This stock can go up to 50 cents, but there's also a really, really high chance that it just slowly fades down to 5 cents. So I definitely would not touch this one, and I don't really know anything about it.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it either. It sounds like an interesting company, though, being molecular data. But just keep in mind that, these companies can do anything. I know whenever I first started trading, Mike, I used to love to try to buy up these penny stocks, and it ended up not going the best. So looking at it, I don't really like to trade penny stocks anymore. To me, I just feel like you can get a lot of great deals right now in other companies. But hey, I'm not saying this is a bad move. There has been a lot of volume coming in, and if you see something that you really like, maybe take a stab at it. But I will say, be prepared because this one's going to be a very risky position if you get in. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I'll say this, I have traded penny stocks in the past, but it's not a good way to make money over the long term. Sure, you might get lucky with a couple plays. You might double your money on a couple small plays, but it's keep in mind the companies you're trading are terrible, and a lot of times there's so much manipulation in that market, especially where it's just it's not worth it from my point of view. But if you're in it, I hope it pops. It's looking okay today, but we'll see what happens. But then we have George mentioning AFRM, Tom, Affirm. This one was hyped up so much a couple months ago, and it's definitely trading at quite the, I guess you can say, quite the discount relative to its all-time high. Its high was around 177. Now it's at 38, and that's after popping up for 4 days. A couple days ago it was at 26. But yeah, I mean, Affirm is definitely recovering back up. If you like to firm at 100 or 80 or 120 or 140, you'll love it at 38.
Yeah, definitely. So if you do like it for the long term, it's probably a pretty good pickup down here. But I just don't know with these companies, Mike. It's pretty tough. Affirm hasn't been on the market for too long, so it's kind of tough to gauge this one for the longer term. And that past earnings report really sent the stock tanking down. So I hope they recover back, but I will say it seems like it's going to be pretty risky. And if I can buy DraftKings at lows or Facebook at lows or, Rivian, Lucid, Neo, Baba, you name it. It's pretty, I think that those are better plays, but I hope Affirm does better, Mike. That the way that they fell on that last earnings report scared me in a pretty big way. You know, I'm not saying I'm like freaking out about it or anything, but that was definitely a pretty big drop. And we've been on a major downtrend since then. So I'm glad it's recovering up now, though. And the thing is, it's moving up in sympathy with those other growth plays. So if we see growth continue up, maybe Affirm will just continue to go up with the growth stocks. And I think that would be best case scenario for them, especially with how those earnings went.
There we go. Awesome. So George also mentioned Palantir, and he said, is Palantir ready to get out of the hole? It's right at resistance. I think so, Tom. I think it's about time that it pops back up. It is looking pretty good, but like I said in the beginning of the stream, like I am a little bit concerned, not just for Palantir, but all the growth stocks, whether it be Palantir, DraftKings, Zoom, whatever. It's like a lot of them are up like 25 to 45% over the past 3 days or so. So it's like I really wouldn't be surprised if we slowed down a tiny bit. But all in all, I'm loving this momentum with Palantir, and I definitely hope it continues up. But in the back of my mind, I'm just like, it's up whatever 30% or 20% or 25% over the past 3 days. It's like, maybe it'll slow down for a second.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised if it does either, Mike. Like, we've seen that happen a lot where stocks go flying to the upside and then they have a lot of consolidation come in for a couple days, or maybe even a lot of downwards movement for a couple days, depending on what you're looking at. But yeah, I mean, Palantir is really breaking out here, Mike. It's like he said, it's right at that upper resistance level, and I hope it continues to run. But like you said, I would not be surprised if it started slowing down. And same thing goes for all these other growth stocks like Lucid. It's been on a crazy uptrend. It's continuing up as well. And this is another one. I would not be surprised if it started to slow down. Same thing with Roblox, Unity, and stocks like that. But I'm really happy to see these continuations, Mike. Like, we haven't had a continuation like this in a while. Like, if we look at Unity on the daily chart, of course, there's some nice like 2 or 3 green days in a row, but look at this. We have 4 nice green days in a row off that lower support. Like, we haven't been seeing movement like this in a long time. And I'm wondering if investor confidence is starting to come back into some of these growth stocks, because I know that we talked a lot about shorts covering might be a lot of the reason why these stocks are going up as well. And I'm really hoping a lot of big investors are coming in while the shorts are covering. It's just making for a really nice move off those lower supports here.
For sure. Yeah, I know what you mean, for sure. Let's see. Then we have Keisha saying Twitter's finally on the move. There we go. Yeah, Twitter is up like 3% today. It's not looking bad. She also mentioned Bros, B-R-O-S. Let's take a look. Yeah, Bros is up 2%. Tom, it looks like there's a pretty decent resistance on Bros at like 60.
Yeah, there really is. There's been lots of touches at 60 in the past. Even like right when it IPO'd, it ran up to around 60 and then had that big downtrend right after that. Looks like, $60 and a little bit past it, maybe around 62.50 as well. But I would definitely eye up 60. Be careful of this one as it goes up. But, I will say, hopefully it breaks 60 and keeps running. That would make for a best case scenario, obviously. But, be very wary of that resistance there.
Yeah, and then even Carlos mentioned how Asana's still going. It's looking pretty good, Tom. It's up almost 8%.
Yeah, it's still going. That's great to see, up to 42.20 at the high now today. I will say, Mike, like, I would expect this one to start slowing down soon, along with a lot of the other growth plays. But yeah, I mean, it's up 8%. I hope it keeps going. And man, hopefully we get up towards $44. That would make for an amazing move today out of Asana. And looking at Asana on the daily chart, it looks like they're getting pretty close to some major resistance as well. Like, let me eye it up really quickly and then maybe go to the intraday chart to see where we're at here. Yeah, I have that big resistance up there right around $44. So maybe they'll get up there and touch that soon. I know they, even over the past 5 minutes, Mike, like, this one's been really ripping, which is crazy.
Yeah. All right, Tom, I don't know about you, but I'm still pretty tempted to sell some more puts on Asana. Like, it's I'm not going to say it's like a grade A fundamental setup, because it's not. The play would primarily be based off of the fact that Dustin Moskovitz is plowing tons of his own money into the play, and of course the industry that Asana is growing rapidly and all that stuff. But the options pricing is the biggest thing. Like, check this out. So Tom, like, let's say you wanted to sell the 40 strike put for Asana. You can get like $320 for that. and that's for the April 14th expiration. So it's like you get $320. The collateral would only be like $4,000 or maybe even less. And then the expiration is in 27 days. So it's like it's a really good annualized return. And like even if we went out to May, it's like if you sell a 40 strike put, you're getting like $550, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I was eyeing up that May expiration, Mike. Like you said, like $550 is insane whenever the stock's only $40, guys. Like you're getting over 10% of your money back just by selling the put there. So I think that's a really smart play to do, Mike, especially with Moskovitz buying in. Sure, Asana might break below 40 and it might consolidate around 35 for a couple months or something, but in the end, though, I feel like it'll still be a great play. You're getting paid to pick up this stock at $40 a share, and that's a big player getting in there, Mike. And to be honest, that's the main reason why I'd get in. I don't really like the setup on it. I don't really know too much about Asana's like overall background as far as like an in-depth history, but looking at it, that's a big player getting in with Moskovitz, and I think that that's a great or the options pricing is just awesome with those puts, Mike. Like I said, if you go to the May expiration, you're getting over 10% of your money back to buy this stock at a lower price than it is now. Like, I know, Mike, it's not like a cheat code, but I like to tell people sometimes selling puts is like unlocking the special version of the stock market. Like it's a really cool thing to do. And I'll tell you what, guys, if you guys are on the fence about learning that, I would really learn how to start selling options and getting into spreads and stuff. I've also been seeing like Cornish in the Discord, and a lot of other people have been liking that type or those type of trades. So looking at it, I mean, it's a really smart thing to get into if you guys are on the fence with it.
Yeah, I know Cornish is probably happy today. I know Zoom's still going up for him, so shout out Cornish. One of the you definitely really brighten up the Discord. We love having you in there, but I'm really happy Zoom's popping up for you. Hopefully that spread's looking good. But yeah, Tom, it's a pretty good day. Facebook is still running up. I don't know if you saw this one. It's definitely on the high ticker for me. It's not like exploding by any means, but then again, it's like we're talking about Facebook, which is a giant company.
Yeah, I was actually eyeing this one up earlier in the morning, and it ran up to that resistance and then ended up consolidating a little bit, but we're getting that nice extension back up through that. Looks like we might be making a new high of day here pretty soon as long as it keeps up. And Facebook's been another one of those stocks, Mike. Like it's beaten down a lot. It formed a really nice support, and this one has a big gap to recover through on the daily chart. So, and keep in mind, Facebook, I know they've been going through some issues and stuff, but keep in mind that I feel like that their platform's changing. They're getting into the metaverse and they're getting into all this VR stuff, and that's going to be huge for them in the future. So I think they're going to do great, and obviously they're innovators. So this is one of my favorite pickups down here, Mike. I know that it's I don't really like Facebook's politics and all that too much, but I look at things objectively, and even if I don't like their politics, I can still like the stock. So hopefully it keeps recovering up here. Definitely having some nice moves, and I know that Twitter is another one that's been moving up today. Looks like all these social media companies are really flying here.
Awesome. Let's see. We have Jerry saying MULN. I've been hearing a lot about this one, and it looks like it's still going, Tom. I mean, again, it's another penny stock. We don't really trade these too much. I remember we looked them up earlier in the week, and they had to do with like EVs and like car dealerships and all that. So, we don't really focus on these types of plays, but if you're in it, I really hope it pops up for you, Jerry.
Yeah, I hope it pops up for you too. And Mike, I actually went to their website really quick just so I could like see what it looks like. And, it kind of reminds me of like maybe like one of those Tesla SUVs. To be honest, Mike, this kind of reminds me of like one of those Lamborghini like Uruses or like one of those type of fancy SUVs. It honestly looks pretty cool. Looks like it'll have like a estimated range of 325 miles, but Mike, once again, what are we seeing? We're seeing another EV stock coming onto the market, being MULN, and it's really low priced. I'm sure it's going to have a lot of volatility down here. It looks like it's been on a major uptrend ever since. I remember there was some good news last week. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's starting to really fly up here. And honestly, like it might be a pretty good like look at like a quick in and out day trade or something like that. As far as a longer term investment, I'm not too certain on it yet, Mike. Just like what we can go look at other stocks like Lucid. Rivian, and stocks like that, and we can just see how much they've fallen off from their all-time highs, and it makes you really second guess getting into MULN. But either way, I mean, it's one of those EV stocks. Hopefully it gets some hype and it keeps going.
Yeah. And then back to Asana really quickly. Carlos said, is it worth it to buy the Asana 35 strike call for April 14th? And I'm going to say this. So, like, the options are overpriced on Asana right now. So, considering you want to play Asana to the upside, you know, and the 35 strike call for April cost like $1,000, I would strongly consider taking that $1,000 instead of buying the 35 strike call. Just buy shares if you're bullish on Asana, because think about it like this: if you bought the 35 strike call, you break even once the stock hits 45. All right, and that's by buying a high quality in the money option. So it's like if you were to just take that $1,000 and buy the shares instead, you would have unlimited time. It would be less risky, and you would probably have a higher percent return if you held for long enough. So it's like I would strongly recommend shares instead if you're bullish on Asana, because it's just a lot safer. But if you really wanted to play options, the 35 strike calls are high quality relative to like the out of the money options.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're getting it at least deep in the money. You know, that's really helpful. Like Mike said, though, the IV has been up quite a bit, though, over the past few months. So obviously you're going to be overpaying a little bit. But, you know, if Asana does keep ripping up, you know, it'll be a pretty good play. But just keep in mind it does come with some type of risk. I would also rather get the shares, like you said, Mike, or even if you don't want to get the shares, maybe just short one of those puts like we talked about. I think that would also be another good way to look at it. But either way, you know, those calls might do pretty good. But you know, I'm looking at a lot of these stocks today, Mike, like whether it's Asana, Lucid, Spotify, you know, you name it. A lot of these stocks are really ripping up here intraday, Mike. And I will say, I'm going to start looking for these ones to slow down. I mean, I know it's been a great day so far, but kind of like what we saw on Wednesday, you know, these stocks really exploded and then started consolidating a lot in the middle of the day. And then they obviously came back towards the end, but I could start to see a lot of consolidation on some of these stocks. I know that we talked about it earlier in the video, and you know they kept running up. But either way, I think that it's going to be a pretty tough day to get some nice continuations. You know, I know that they're already up a lot, and I feel like that we're going to start to see some pullbacks come in here pretty soon, especially with some of the ones that are up, you know, maybe like 7 or 8%, kind of like what we see with like Neo, Baba, and stocks like that.
Yeah, for sure. And then we have Keisha saying, what do you guys think of Intel? Tom, I know you follow this one a lot more than me, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I like it for the long term. You know, it's pretty good as long as you buy it at the right time. You know, I really like this bottom support on Intel around $44. It's touched 44 and went up. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times, like probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just about 7 times over the past like 2 to 3 years. At least there's a great support here, which is awesome for them. I'm hoping that it ends up holding up here. If it falls below that, I will start to get a little bit worried. But I will say, Mike, it's a pretty good chip stock. You know, they have pretty good fundamentals, and the good news is that they're not gonna go anywhere anytime soon. Although I will say there's other chip stocks like Nvidia, AMD, and even other ones out there that probably have more hype than Intel. So keep that in mind. But also keep in mind that Intel, you know, they've been doing a lot of research and development and stuff like that, and they're trying to get themselves back in the game in a strong way. I know they also, I think, got a new CEO over the past 6 months or so, so that's going to be helpful for them also. But yeah, looking at it, Mike, for the long term, I like it. For the short term, I think it can go anywhere, but honestly, like this one to me is something you need to buy and hold for the longer term. If you try to trade this one short term, it just goes all over the place.
Yeah, I do agree with that. You know, it's like if you're trying to trade this one for the short term, like you might get lucky sometimes, but I feel like the way to go is definitely like through like longer term shares, or if you really wanted to, like maybe very deep in the money calls, leaps. So, you know, we'll see, but I also think it's in a really good fundamental position. They are one of the leaders in the in their industry, the semiconductor industry. But just like Tom said, it's like they don't have that same hype that Nvidia or AMD do, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's good because, of course, the stock is trading at a lower valuation and you don't have to overpay for that hype. But then the bad thing is like, if you're holding the stock, it's like sometimes you wish it was a little bit more hyped up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you sit here and you watch AMD go from, like over the past couple of years, it goes from $50, let's say, up to like 164, and you see Intel just, trade between that range of 44 and, $60 for 3 years. So it's definitely a slower mover, Mike. I feel like it'll be good long term, like I said. And, in the short term, I will say you can get some amazing plays out of AMD and Nvidia and stuff like that. Just look at these intraday moves. Like, look at Nvidia today, Mike. Like, they're all the way up to 260 now. Like, this is getting explosive. Even AMD, they're not breaking out like Nvidia, but they're definitely ripping back up. So yeah, I think the AMD and Nvidia will be better for like those quicker in and out day trades and stuff like that. And honestly, these ones will be pretty good for the longer term, in my opinion, also. But Intel, Mike, I've also been hearing some good stuff about them creating some big factories in the United States. I know that Trump and Biden have been like doing deals with Intel, or I shouldn't say Trump and Biden, but more of the government, and they're trying to get the United States not to rely on China as much for semiconductors. And Intel building a big factory here is going to be very helpful. So maybe that'll help Intel out over the next couple of years once that factory's finished. But keep in mind, in the short term, maybe they'll be pumping out a lot of money for that factory, and that could also be part of the reason why they've been going down.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. And then George also mentioned Matterport. He said Matterport also trying to get above 8. Yeah, we haven't looked at this one in a little bit, but it's definitely trying to come back up. And this one has definitely been on a wild ride.
Yeah, I hope this one really comes back, Mike. Like, this is one of those stocks that was touted as one of those metaverse plays, and I really hope that these metaverse stocks get back up here. I like the way it's setting up and forming a nice support. I think it's honestly looking not too bad here. I might look at grabbing some for the long term, Mike. I like the company. It's not my favorite play for the metaverse. I think I like stuff like Unity and like Roblox maybe a little bit better, and obviously Facebook, like their name's Meta. Like, you almost can't go wrong with that if you like the metaverse. But for the longer term, I think Matterport will still do okay. This one's tough though, Mike, because I know this one particularly fell off a lot, over the past 6 months. And it's tough when you're buying a stock that fell from 37 down to 5, but hey, at least you're getting it at a big discount. And for the longer term, just also keep in mind, it's not just Matterport that fell like this. So if it was company specific, I would be a lot more worried. But since the overall growth sector has been doing this, honestly, I don't think it's too bad.
There we go. Awesome. And then we have Carlos mentioning Palantir. That one's ripping, Tom. It's about time these growth stocks pop up. It's so nice to look at my watch list and see Palantir up 5%, DraftKings up 2%, Zoom up almost 3%, Square up 5%. It's like, it's just relieving. It's been months of, oh gosh, Zoom down another 8% today.
Yeah, and I was really maybe expecting another pullback today. Like, we had 2 explosive days in a row. I was sitting here like, oh, great, we're going to give all the gains right back now. But hey, I'm glad the market proved me wrong this morning. I'm, like you said, it's so relieving to finally see these stocks moving up. Been a long time. Of course, there's still some stocks in the red, but I'll be honest, Mike, like my watch list, even the stocks that are red are down a minimal amount. It's not like they're down like 3 or 5% or anything like that. The worst stock today for me is FedEx, and it's down 4%. The second worst is Starbucks, down 1.8%. So honestly, I'll take that, to the downside, having only a 1.8% stock leading my watch list down. So that's definitely good. But yeah, these growth stocks are great to see, Mike. I know that we've even been talking about Teladoc for the past couple months, and they're even ripping up in a major way. It seems like every growth stock has just gone straight up this morning. We haven't really seen any pullbacks or any downwards movement really. So, I mean, at the same time, Mike, like, it's awesome to see this uptrend, but I feel like it's going to get tough to trade midday. Like at some point, we're going to see some type of slowdown.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like midday, it will get a little bit tricky because, like, for example, if we look at like SoFi, like because you already have it pulled up, like over the past couple of days, it went from 770 up to 950, and let's say in an hour or so, it's going to be like, all right, now it's at 950, and it's like, okay, I don't really want to buy puts in a stock that is blasting up when all other growth stocks are blasting up. But then again, I don't want to be buying calls on a stock that is up, 30% over the past couple of days. So it's like you kind of get in that weird situation. So I definitely know what you mean. And either way, I'm just happy these growth stocks are popping back up. And even though, even though the past couple of months have been brutal, like especially for growth stocks, ultimately it will be a blessing, as long as you, have a longer term exposure to these assets, because it's like, it sucks seeing some of your favorite stocks go from like 65 down to 15, but then again, it's like the stock market being dumb sometimes is truly what gives you that opportunity.
Yeah, it really is. It's awesome, and I know we've had some good opportunities in the past, like whenever the COVID crash happened and stuff like that, a lot of stocks started, moving a lot lower also. And I'm really glad that, I picked up a couple stocks during that time and they really exploded. Like Intel was one of them, and there was a couple more. But in the end, though, it's always good to grab some stocks for the long term, especially whenever you're seeing big pullbacks like this. And, a lot of people, Mike, they get really worried. They see a big pullback like this, and then they say, well, what's going to stop DraftKings from going out of business, or what's going to stop them from continuing to go down to maybe $10 or something? And the thing is it might keep going down in the short term, but you have to honestly just look at it over the next couple of years, because, like, look at this, Mike. It took us maybe 6 months to fall from $65 on DraftKings down to $15. That was only 6 months for such a crazy move. Like, it might only be a year or 2 years and we're all the way back up at highs. So just keep that in mind. A lot of these moves that we've been seeing, we might see a pretty quick recovery. And I'm not saying that we're going to recover like we did after COVID, where stocks just explode up in 2 or 3 months. But, I would say like over the next year to 2 years, I think that these stocks will have some amazing growth. And honestly, like DraftKings is in a growing sector, being the sports betting industry and everything. And a lot of these stocks like Square and Lucid, Rivian, stocks like that, Mike, they have just a lot of potential for the long term, given the sectors that they're in. And I feel like that they could end up just, obviously recovering up in a major way. And we're already seeing Square almost do that. Like Square's breaking that major resistance today, and it's still going.
Yeah, we'll see. And I definitely want to note this is that, like, not every single growth stock will recover, and that's something very important to keep in mind. There are some of these companies out there that flat out just suck, and it's important to recognize that even if they might be popping up 30% over the past week or so, it's like you still have to keep in mind that fundamentals play a giant role. Whether you like fundamental analysis or you don't, it's very important. Like you have to know how these companies are actually doing. So it's like not all of these growth stocks will recover, and that's just the truth, and it's something important to be aware of. So, while you're buying the dip, guys, be aware that check their fundamentals, or at least ask about them, because it's like not all of these growth stocks are created equal, and that's very important to keep in mind, especially for like a long-term play.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be tough, like some of these stocks. I feel like most of the ones that we cover, Mike, will do pretty good. Especially the bigger names that we talk about, like Square and Facebook and stocks like that. The ones that scare me a little bit, are ones like Roblox or like Nikola, or just like some of those like overhyped plays. I feel like sometimes those ones are a little bit scary, but I definitely know what you mean. You got to be really careful buying these stocks, and I do feel like that some of them are better than others. Like I love how DraftKings, Mike, is in that sports betting industry, and I love how that industry is continuing to grow, and I love how states still need to legalize. Like whenever Texas, California, and like Florida, like when those 3 states legalize, that's going to be amazing for DraftKings and the other sports betting companies. But in the end, though, it's a growing industry, and I feel like that they have they obviously have a long way to go back to profitability, Mike, but I feel like it's going to be coming sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we'll see. And then with the last play, Raymond is mentioning PIK. I know we talked about this one a little bit before the stream, Tom, but it definitely has a lot of hype with it.
Yeah, it does. It's up 50% today. It's had a great move since open. And yeah, I was actually on this company's website before the market opened because I'd never heard of this stock before, but I noticed it was up a ton this morning. And it's like one of those subscription boxes where you can kind of order a box online, they'll send you it, and it'll have like an assortment of kids' clothes in it. And then you can pick out what you want. Whatever you don't want, you can put in the box and send back, and they'll like give you a refund for it. So definitely sounds interesting, Mike. And I know that there's been some boxes come out like that for adults, like Stitch Fix and different like golfing boxes. And there's boxes out there for even like anything you want just about nowadays. I know some people get like meat boxes where they'll send you like different beef jerkies and stuff like that. But there's a ton of those, and it looks like the company's definitely rising up here a lot today, Mike. But I will say, be very careful trading this one, guys, especially if you like it for the long term. I mean, this one's just went up so quick, so rapidly. I don't even know what to think about this one, Mike. And it might make for some good day trades, but as far as like any type of longer term position, I just don't even know what to think about this.
Yeah. All right, Tom, do you have any last-minute plays before we close out?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to those China stocks one more time because they are ripping today, like especially the China EV stocks. Like XPEV is up 13%. It just broke above that high of this week. It is starting to consolidate a little bit, so keep that in mind, but it's definitely been running up this morning along with LI, NIO. I know that we also saw Baba and Baidu ripping up as well, so I'm glad to see the China plays moving back. They had that great news come out on Wednesday where China gave some confidence to U.S. investors, to say the least, and they did end up dipping down a little bit yesterday, but they're right back on that uptrend, which is awesome. And this is just another sector that's booming up with these growth stocks. So I'm glad to see a lot of stocks moving up in the green, Mike. You know, even Spotify up 6% today. This has been a pretty big one. You know, I know this is a huge like music streaming company, and a lot of these growth stocks are up today. So glad to see the movement. I will say I expect them to slow down and start to maybe have some slight pullbacks or consolidation soon, maybe over the next couple of hours. But other than that, it's been a really nice week, guys. And Mike, I mean, we haven't had a week like this in a long time where we had like 4 green days in a row out of these growth plays. So, hey, I'm glad to have it. And hopefully next week is just as good as this one.
Feels good, Tom. Oh, gosh. It's been a while. It really has been a while since we saw like a nice, good uptrend with all these growth plays. So I'm happy it's happening finally, but there we go. Before we close out, I just want to thank all of you guys for joining. So thank you so much, Carlos, Keisha, George, Michael, Sean, I'm Fierce, Mike, J Deep, Spacely, Vicky, Adam, Jerry, and Reepa, and Raymond. So thank you guys so much for joining. The market's looking pretty good so far, and hopefully this movement continues. Besides that, have a great rest of your day.